What up, YouTube? It's your boy G11. Back at it again with an episode of Homie Talk. I'm joined by Soma and Suspect today. And I'm going to call today's segment The Conspiracy Corner. Check it out.
Did you just
You
come
see
up
the
with
banner?
that? Yeah.
Yeah, I made that before you came in. So I made the little banner.
Like,
Yeah. Let me put that thing away there. All right. So I don't know. Oftentimes we get into conversations about what's going on in the world, really just to be aware about what the hell is going on, so that we're not sheep just blindly following what's going on, right? You want to be able to trust your government, but you don't want to totally be able to trust, you don't want to give complete and utter trust into the government because that's not how this thing was set up. You dig? So I got this clip you sent me where it looks like it's some leads of a program talking about story and narrative. It's kind of a lengthy joint, but I think I skipped right to the
oh
meat
yeah,
of it.
yeah,
So
that's
let me
long.
pull this. Yeah, it's a lot to digest on this one. Like they're literally explaining how people think about stuff, which is like it's like some Inception type stuff. Back it again. Second tongue tied.
Beef.
Second time's the charm. God damn it.
And information, you give them to the opposite. They do that because the disinformation is more meaningful to them than the information, than the truth. And what does that mean, more meaningful? Ultimately, bottom line, what it means is it promotes and boosts their sense of self. It's their identity that it's meaningful to. And that's the bottom line meaning, right? Who you are and what you believe in.
I'm just gonna pause for a second. She got a fucking big ass chin, yo.
Chin?
I mean, I just see
Don't be
that
making fun
divot
of
in
my
her
sources like
chin.
that.
I see that divot
Anyway,
in her chin, and it's distracting as fuck. Okay.
you want get some toilet paper.
I just want to put something in there, like just to smooth out the chin. But basically, what she's getting at here, sus, as I know we kind of glossed over a certain part. She's talking about how people interpret. Hold on, let's do this. She's talking about how people interpret information. How they take what was it? They take the narrative and make it their story, or was it take the story and make it their narrative? Was it
They
which way
take
was it, Resolus?
make it their story.
They take the narrative and make it their story. So you internalize it and you take the information that means the most to you, is what she's saying. Kind of like with this whole COVID deal. That's why we have this like polarization of people on this side who are like, take the fucking vaccine, and then you got people on this side who are like, nah. You know what I'm saying? Because they've internalized it a certain way. And then you got people in the middle who are actually thinking, weighing the pros and cons about why or why not to take it. They're not necessarily attaching it to like a specific, like, I'm not taking it because of freedom, or take it because we want freedom type of deal. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you over the sound of my freedom.
Exactly. No, you got some hardcore Americanos out there. Did I hit that on the nail? Osama? I hit that on the nail, bro. Oh, I think he's trying to set up his
But I mean, it's like both. From what I just a little snippet that I've seen. It's basically the fact that like people want to believe what they feel is right, and if it doesn't always make sense, it don't. But to them, it does.
correct. 100%.
And like that's just like you can grow up in the same households,
Hmm.
grow up with the same faith and whatever, but your
Correct.
ideologies can be totally different from your brothers or your sisters or your parents. You can have the same concept, but your whole premise of how you think and what you believe is based off of stuff that you believe
Correct.
is right and wrong. There can be something that you might not feel is a big deal, and somebody thinks it means the world to them.
So
So
take that concept, and what they're talking about in the video is how they can do that on like a bigger scale, like how to plant their narrative into people, essentially. You know what I mean?
So
That's what she's getting at there. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of a
yeah,
interesting thing because they're talking about how to use it in like military operations and how to, I don't know, I guess, what was a practical way they explained it? Like if you have a soldier who's overseas and he has a certain narrative about how things will be, but he gets there and shit's completely different. You know, how do we keep him thinking the way we want him to think and not get turned by what's going on over there type deal? You know what I mean?
but I feel like that can only get you so far because not everybody is dumb and not everybody is impressionable. Like we all are to a certain extent. But yes,
Oh,
you go
you're
ahead,
good.
Moscato. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're
no,
good.
I was agreeing with. I was agreeing with you. I mean,
But
I'll
yeah,
talk after I'm finished.
okay. But yeah, it's just saying like not everybody's impressionable. Not only that's just like as perfect example.
Mhm.
You want your kid to do something, so you be like, hey, I'll give you this if you do this, or it could be like it's just low key bribing with the fact that like, hey, you've been doing really good, and I want you to keep doing good, and if you do it, I will give you X, Y, and Z. It could be anything, whatever the kid likes or whatever they find interesting. But
Mhm.
at a certain time, if you don't honor it, they ain't gonna believe you worth shit. And like, who's to say? Uh, who's to
He saw the
say?
chat.
Right? It's just, it's just like, yeah. Well, that's my thought. I don't know. I could be wrong because like I only saw a little bit of it, but that just with that being alone was what I saw. I am forming my own opinion off of it, but I'm pretty sure like what we going to talk about can go give me better insight about what it is.
Fair enough. Razzle
Because
dazzle, what you got, man?
what I was just gonna say, what they're gonna talk about, like what you said, you're correct. But that's you. So you're one person, I'm one person, G's one person, who happen to not think that way, right?
Right.
That's a small amount of people. In a bigger scale, in a room of 100 people, it may be 2 or 3 of them that know how to think for themselves. That 2 or 3
Facts.
are not gonna die. The rest of them will, and they're gonna talk about how to weaponize it because they do it all the time. COVID is one example, but there's literally over 150 other examples. Like I have them written down. There's life examples of them doing this. The military is just it's better facilitated because they can actually fund it.
Yeah.
So that's another aspect of it. When you're paying for something like that, you're getting top dollar. Like you getting the top shelf treatment. So you're getting the best of the best to participate in these experiments or to facilitate, meaning push these out to other people who don't know
Right.
about these things, unbeknownst to them. So they always start with the military and then they push it out when it's good, when it's ready to be shipped
Because
out.
Yeah,
y'all are government owned property.
We are
I
at
mean,
first.
yeah.
You get out.
Oh, yeah, first.
This isn't to bag on anybody in the military. We were in the service, so it's nothing.
No, I mean it works because this is like actually what they're talking about. So I'm gonna go back to the clip, let it play out a little bit more, and then we'll discuss a little bit more. Let me pull this thing up.
Of course, there isn't just one identity. Identity has layers. So the more, in terms of influence, the more layers of identity you trigger, the more influential you'll be.
Like a key thing they hit on was, I guess, if the narrative hits on multiple layers of a person's identity or your beliefs. So if they have something that kind of fits multiple layers of your beliefs system that you have, the more likely you're gonna, I guess, accept what they're putting out. You know what I mean, or identify with it. If
You
that
know what
makes
that
sense.
is?
What's that?
That's every person who believes they zodiac sign relates to them.
Oh my
Yeah.
god!
Hey, I mean that's a good example. I have that written down. That's an example.
Really?
Hey,
That was one of my examples.
yeah.
Oh my days. But yeah, I mean that's exactly it. Like if that's it literally like and people don't think about it like that. You know what I'm saying? They're just like, oh, this is I don't know. I guess most people don't think about it that deeply when there's like world issues or big issues in the country, you know, or even just everyday issues with folks. You know, you have your own belief system, they have theirs. Messages come down and you interpret it. Just however many layers that thing hits, the more you're gonna internalize it. So it's pretty interesting to see how they did that. I'm gonna let the gentleman in the suit go for a little bit, and then so I'm gonna let you do some talking there. I think you can interpret this a little bit better than I can.
The part that I think is important is recognizing the critical role that stories play in connecting people to narrative, and this I think is in part where the U.S. government tends to miss these two, because we conflate the term narrative and the term story, and we don't recognize the difference between them and the different roles they play. So if every society has a narrative, and I would argue that most societies, especially,
I'm pausing for a second because I'm gonna ask you guys a question.
Mhm.
All right, what do you guys think? What do you guys think the narrative of America is? Do you guys think that
The
they're like the big overarching theme of America, so to
The
speak?
American dream.
American dream?
That used to be it. It is not that anymore.
Yeah, it's shifted. It's shifted. Yeah.
It's
So
it's I don't even know what to call it, because the American honestly, the American dream is dead, because that like single family living in these nice little houses and all this shit, like being able I'm gonna just go into the fact that like most people who want that American dream don't actually get it. They don't get the white picket fence and the loving family, the 2-car garage, and the 3-4 bedroom house. Don't get me wrong, it is achievable, but not everybody can get it. And people,
facts.
especially people who hear these stories from overseas and come here hoping to, take a
Hmm.
piece of the pie, don't get that. So I guess so back on track. I guess the narrative for America in itself is how much can we get away with?
Ah, I see what you're saying. Okay. I thought it was interesting that Soma just said the American dream, but you understood what it was right away. So that kind of tells me that, like, I think we all kind of grew up understanding that big narrative is like that. It's like planted in us at some point. I don't know if it's when we're in school. I don't know if it's what somebody told me when I was little. But yeah, grow up, go to work, be a hard worker, get the house, get the kids, get a car,
Mm-hmm.
etc. Get the picket fence. You know what I'm saying? Like the literally that was the American dream. But now it has shifted. Um, in the chat I saw she put freedom, but at what cost? I think it's becoming more of like
Soul.
it's kind of like this equality for everyone, or
It's
actually what's what's that?
anachronism. It's anachronism. So it's like the American dream was put in the wrong. It was before its time, so it wasn't effective.
Correct.
And so, like when I said the American dream, I was using it not the way that we use it traditionally. I like that.
Sarcastically?
Well, no, I was using it interchangeably because it is a dream. Like you said, you can kind of
It
just do
is.
whatever you want. So just do
Yes.
it. You can kind of just do whatever you want now. I was using it interchangeably to describe both sides. You do have the people that still believe the American dream, the normal one, like picket fence, 2-car garage, 35
Yep.
kids, a big house, a nice job.
35 kids, goddamn.
And a fresh pair of Air
They
Jordans.
claiming money on them tax returns.
It was legal back
Shit.
then. Believe it or not, it was legal. But now it's kind of become this mush of just anything. Like you can make it as a TikTok star. You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
regard for intellectual wisdom in that. Like
Kind of feels like a free for all.
And
yeah.
going off on a side tangent, just going off on a tangent,
Yeah.
stupidity sells along with sex.
Oh, 100%.
The
But that's not an
more
accident. That's not an accident.
it's not. It is
The
not.
two are also interchangeable.
Yep.
It's just like that's what I'm saying. It's like I'm not the first person to say it. They want to dumb us down so we don't see what is truly going on. We don't. Yeah, granted, we
Mhm.
don't see a lot because they don't tell us everything, and that's
Sure.
it. Could be one of multiple reasons. Like it can cause mass panic
Mhm.
and amongst other things.
Government shouldn't tell us everything all the time. Like it's just that'd be terrible.
Because if we
Sometimes
knew
do it in verse too.
everything,
Yeah.
Sometimes they do want panic. Like now.
true,
Like COVID,
true.
using both ways. But go ahead, continue.
No, well, I mean that's it. It's just like if they wanted to right now, like remember that scare they had back and like people thought the world was gonna end and apocalypse is coming, like zombies
2012.
and shit. Because
Yeah.
not kind of part and parcel to that, but at the same time, it's like people was like, remember the whole little shit in the news with the dude eating a
Oh,
Oh, the
person.
zombie, the bath salts guy.
Yeah, it's just
yeah.
shit like that.
He ate that guy's face. That was crazy.
They had
Right, and it's like,
and
oh,
too.
and people that people took that the way they wanted to.
Mhm.
We don't know the reason why the fuck this man did this shit, but he did it. And
We know why. He was high noon.
but we don't know exactly. We know why, but we don't know
Yeah.
why.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's just like people took that information and ran to the hills saying the wrong thing.
Misinformation.
Now
Yep.
notice. This is key because they're gonna talk about this, but this is something we don't think about. Notice the timing of that stuff. The government only steps in if it obeys what they needed to obey. So that didn't mean anything. Clearly, that didn't pertain to whatever the plan is. They didn't care that
Right.
the guy ate some guy. That might have been an actual organic story that was reported compared to every other story. That might have been something
Right.
that actually happened and it wasn't faked. Because the government didn't step in. They didn't step in to change the narrative. They didn't step in and say,
Right.
not zombies, no, or no, it's not a cover up, or no,
And
it's not alien. They didn't clarify anything on purpose.
like on another side note, it's out there. You probably know, Ruscano. I'm pretty sure you know. The fact that there's this 10th planet behind the sun,
Oh yeah,
Nibiru, if I recall right.
Anunnaki, Nibiru, all that crap, Planet X,
Yeah,
all that.
and it's saying people will go to extreme lengths to prove something, and I'm not saying they're wrong nor right. I am in the middle of this because there's how much proof is there before it can be disproven. We don't know. Have you personally like seen this shit or like took a picture of it? Like,
No.
It's all
I'm
digital
not.
at the moment.
Yeah, and that begs the question: is like, how the fuck do we see these planets from so far away?
You're
But
getting into metaphysics, sort of.
yeah, that's for a different topic. But that I just wanted to bring that up because it's like
Oh, it's good. It's
people
good.
people will
Yeah,
think like they hear of something like the whole dumb shit with like, oh, Pluto's not a planet anymore. Oh wait, Pluto is the planet again. Like what the fuck?
Yeah.
it was basically
No.
common sense stuff that was shifted.
Yes. But then that's, it all boils back again down to the person and how they explained it. Like how many layers of your identity, whatever information hits on, you know,
And there's
that's
so much subliminal messaging on TV now. Like you're hell, even in your cases, your thoughts aren't even your own. You can be you can be
Yeah.
you can be predisposed to think of a certain way because you are watching TV or looking at shit on your phone and it subliminally leaves a message and you think like, oh, I came up with this idea. Let
Mhm.
me try to spread it to other people and see what they think.
Facts.
Mm, So
I
That's
get what
how
you're
narratives.
saying.
yeah,
That's how narratives start right there. And
Yep.
exactly.
they have technology to like this is baby. Like what they're talking about. This is the lowest level. Like that's already been done. What they're ready to talk about. They have
Exactly.
actual technology that can do it all on its own. Algorithms. They have algorithms and AI that can do it itself. They don't need people to do it anymore.
Mhm.
People get too involved. They make mistakes with that kind of stuff. When it comes to manipulation, they make mistakes. Some of them may feel bad towards the end, right? So second guessing. So they have technology that can very easily, and it already is, creating its narratives for people and situationally fissuring like everybody. It's like you have the Generation Z versus the Boomers now, right?
Correct.
That
Yep.
whole age-old argument, it has nothing to do with anything, but they're making it in relation to COVID and climate change. COVID and climate change do correlate with each other. Narratives and stories do correlate with both climate change and COVID. I know I'm going all over the place with this. I'm trying to say that even those things separate and together are still narratives because people believe in one or the other or both in some
Yep.
cases. And that's where the story branches off. That's where you get the individualism of thought.
Yeah, it's all pretty interesting because we're talking about this whole concept really is just incepting ideas into people, getting them to think what you want them to think, but you feed them the right information to get them thinking a certain way. You know what I mean?
Or wrong, or
Or
wrong
or
information.
or yeah, or feed them
do
wrong
that.
information.
And it's just
They
like
do that
say
too.
like I said with your child, or like say if you wanted to get like a person to do something that you should have been doing, but you didn't. So you kind of pawn it off onto them and make them think like it was their idea and like, oh yeah, let me go take care of this. And even and in the back of your head, you're like, yeah, got that motherfucker.
Oh, wow, unreal. But yeah, I mean, people do that stuff all the time. I'm sure he'll be
He's
back
gone.
in.
Yeah.
I think he dropped out. He probably opened a message or something, but I'm going to play a little bit more of the video so he comes back in. This guy in the suit has a pretty interesting explanation of how, the whole narrative thing. So I'm gonna let him go real quick. Oh, here, I see. Let's let him go. I'll bring you back in a sec. Let's see what this guy's got.
Complex ones have more than one
Add you
narrative. You
back
might have a
in.
dominant narrative and then several other maybe minority narratives
Oops.
that exist. But then whoever's governing has a story for
Mhm.
how that entity is going to solve for whatever the dissonance of life with that narrative. So if I actually use America American narratives more often than others because I think people can wrap their head around them. If the American narrative is the American dream, and whatever that means, like what's beautiful about a narrative, I don't need to explain it. You just know it means something,
Right.
and it might mean something different to all of the people listening to this. But if that's
literally exactly what we just said. You know, you can send out a message and it means something different to different people. I'm gonna let them go.
the American narrative, then and we just went through a political campaign, which makes us even better. Each candidate is going to present their story for how to solve for the dissonance created between
Sus
the
is back. Let me bring him
narrative
back
of living
in.
the American dream and the reality of life. So each person out there, whatever their vision of the American dream is, they're still struggling to achieve it. Now, maybe that's part of their narrative is a struggle and hard work and whatever. But and so somebody who's trying to connect to that might have a story that says, I'm going to facilitate an environment where your hard work will pay off with success, and that each person is going to be treated equally so that your hard work will not be treated more harshly or more beneficial than somebody else's hard work. So the challenge is when we go abroad, as Ajit said, we kind of have an American narrative. I mean, it is in the Constitution of the United States. It's in our Declaration of Independence. It's in our national security strategy, our national military strategies. We tend to re-emphasize that narrative over and over again. But what we don't typically recognize is what is our story to address the dissonance in a given region or a specific country. And
what is he referring to when he's saying dissonance? When he's saying dissonance, what's he referring to? You guys think?
He's talking about cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is believing in two things that are opposing. So, a Democratic Republican, right? You've heard that, or a Democratic communist, right? Or Republican communist, or a better example would be somebody who is. I'm trying to think of something more modern. There's something, I forgot the word. There's something that somebody said recently, and it's a split. It's something that they don't meet, but we're forcing them to meet. What the heck is it?
Well, let me see. I'm just Googling this while you're.
Capitalistic communism. Those are completely opposite from each other. Communism is it's a set amount of money that can be made. Everybody's making the same, right? And it all goes towards the government. Capitalism, you have the opportunity to make that money for yourself, and it's not a set amount. It's whatever you set it as. So if you make a business, it's your business, right? You set the wage, you set the worker's wage, you own all of that. If this was a communist state,
everything's set by the government. And
right?
Yeah,
that's cool. You have a business, but we want your money, so to speak. So this idea that two things that don't line up, but forcing them in people's minds, forcing them to be one thing. It's very.
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's manipulative. It's antithetical to like if your mom was stuffing vegetables down your mouth, and then in the same spoon she's giving you a piece of cake. Like you're eating vegetables, like you can't do both. You have to. It's moderation.
So I just looked it up because I wanted to know the actual textbook definition of dissonance, because I recently used it in the explanation of so I did a video on like red pill. We talked about this the other day, right? So the definition of dissonance that it gives us here is a tension or clash resulting from the combination of two disharmonious or unsuitable elements. And the example it gives is kind of like what he was saying, right? Campaign rhetoric and personal behavior. So I guess in my example, I describe my dissonance as seeing how real life plays out versus what I'm feeling inside, what I think inside how things should go, right?
Right.
I think I used it properly there. Basically
You
like
did.
you're raised.
Fiction? You talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I read it this morning. You did. When you were talking about the was that girl or the OnlyFans thing, if I'm not mistaken? I don't remember which one it was. I saw two things this morning that you posted, and I saw dissonance in one.
I'm referring to like, so when I explained why I became red pill ideology, because I was raised blue pill. I was raised be the nice guy, marry the John, get you a house, do things the right way. And reality is a little bit harder than that. You know what I'm saying? Being the nice guy does not work. I mean, you want to be a good guy. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference between that. A couple of content creators go over that, but I was explaining that as my dissonance, like what I thought was different from what reality actually was like. And I had that internal clash. I was like, okay, red pill actually suits my internal ideology to a point. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's kind of interesting seeing them use that in a higher level.
Or to your audience as guys who do psyops stuff, what they have to recognize is the very fact that they're in a country means that there's significant dissonance between the governing story and the societal narrative. Like, you wouldn't be there if the governing story narrative connection was working perfectly. One, it never works perfectly, but there's clearly massive disruption that exists, or the United States military psyop community wouldn't be present. So already dissonance exists between the story narrative
Oh, let me pause.
connection.
What's that?
I was asking if you could pause it there. So what he
Yeah.
just said, said it twice. PSYOP. I know y'all probably know what it means. Psychological operation, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's referring to is, and we do have this. This is openly known. This isn't a conspiracy theory like people think. We do have groups in military branches that focus primarily on rousing up psychological operations, so narratives. Prime example,
Yep.
Afghanistan, right? We were all taught that Al Qaeda, right? What is it? What's
The
the other one?
Taliban.
Yeah, Taliban, and then you have the cartel and all that stuff that are involved in all that. All of those with the boogeyman, right? Those were our original reasons for going to Afghanistan. We stayed there for so long, right? Because we were trying to quell those groups, right? There were obviously other reasons. That there was some other stuff that came up, oil, all that stuff. We found out that they're the largest source in the world for oil, so we stayed. The narrative is what they were telling us to get into that area, into that country.
Stop the bad guys, get the WMDs.
Right, exactly. That's what he's talking about when he said the psychological operation has to be put in place. That's what he's getting at. Is even though people may think that somewhere like Afghanistan is not as violent as it is, when you get there, right? You may feel that way, but they have to make sure that you continue to think it, so that you want to stay. You don't get demoralized. You don't come to a realization and then later depression, right? You're all about it. You're like, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to defend America, right? So you're on a righteous path at that point. That's the mindset that they want to keep you in, and they're very strategic about it. They pick very individual locations, places that we wouldn't think of. Like, had we never heard of Afghanistan, nobody would even know it was on the map. You know what I mean? Like, we wouldn't know anything about that country had we not been there. And so that the narrative continued with what we see today, which is why people who are on the side of, I was in the war, we should have, destroyed that place. We should have stayed there for another 40 years, right? That's where that mindset comes from, the original narrative, which is America needs to save the world, right? And that story changed over time. People like us, right, and people younger who see it as a war and only a war. They don't see and that's the other thing, like what you said, so like they don't show us everything. They really don't. They, especially with those types of situations, they don't show us the whole meat and potatoes of it, and even that is by design. You know, it is to a certain degree to control what you think on both sides. So you never come to a full agreement. You never come to a full certain understanding, and that's what dissonance is. It's so you never can come to a conclusion. Left versus right, red versus blue, right? Black and white.
It's literally where we are today on like everything.
Vaxxer versus anti-vaxxer. There's no in between. There's no critical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what narrative and story. They're gonna talk about it a little more, but they're gonna use really big words that we don't understand. So I'm just kind of summarizing it.
I got something on this similar topic of what you're talking about. I'm gonna try to share it real quick. No, just all right. Let me know. I mean, you're ready, because like
I'm ready.
Don't believe shit's probably gonna get a little shitty. Okay, I know this. I've been here for a few years, couple times. All right, bro. It's such a safe country. You're the only danger there. Okay. Okay. Oh wow, they leave out of their shit. That was easy. I'm gonna take everything. Taliban's! Do something! Save them! Okay, I told you it was gonna happen. I just got back. Seems like somebody didn't even do anything over there. It takes longer than a couple years to fix broken shit. Okay, and we couldn't do shit because you wouldn't let us fix shit. Whatever, just do your job. Okay, I see all of it on Instagram. I know what's going on. When there's a draft, I'm gonna be just fine. You're gonna be upset though.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Versus story right there. That's literally it.
Yeah. That literally summarizes it up perfectly. Gentlemen, I don't think there's any more need to beat up the rest of that video. Biggest thing is just understanding how narrative and story works, how you internalize, you know, how you can internalize it, how the information hits you, and just being aware, like if you realize you start thinking a certain way one day, it's like, well, wait a minute. I used to be like that. How'd I get here? It was being able to cognitively think about it in that aspect, you know, so that way you come to the table being able to have that middle ground and you're not just this or that kind of thing. So I think that's the biggest takeaway. That this was a very good episode of Conspiracy Theory. We got to do this every week now. That's really good. For the people out there watching the video, do you agree with what our conclusion was? What's y'all story? What's y'all narrative? What do y'all think America's actual narrative is? Let me know down in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button. Until next time, we out.